Now at 5:30 on WKYT this morning in Louisiana, parts of the state now considered major disaster areas after historic flooding. We'll take a look at the damage left behind this morning and see how some Kentuckians plan to help out.
Also on WKYT this morning in Madison County, a special tribute to a fallen officer will be going back on display. We'll take a closer look at a tribute for Officer Daniel Ellis. And a Central Kentucky sheriff says he is humbled by the community rallying around their law enforcement. That touching story and more, including your weather forecast on WKYT this morning.
This is WKYT This Morning.
Good morning. Welcome in. It's your Monday. We hope you had a nice weekend. I'm Bill Bryant.
I'm Rebecca Smith. Headed over to the Cray Festival in Masterson Station Park. It's a really good time. It was pretty hot. But they had nice cooling tents there.
Yeah, well, that's good. Humidity was up there over the weekend for the most part, but it was pretty good all in all. A lot of people were out and about. And let's check in with meteorologist Micah Harris.
Yeah, it really wasn't a bad weekend, especially on that Saturday. Now, Sunday, we had a few storms here and there. Some saw the rain, some did not. But if you do, in the next few days, look for some heavy downpours, and we're seeing that. Northern Kentucky as of right now. Rolling through the Walton region, Crenton already past you, heading towards, say, Ryland Heights, heads up there in Kenton County, about to roll into Campbell County and northern Pendleton County here very shortly. But that is some very heavy rain. You got to be watching for some ponding there on the roads. Hour-by-hour forecast, 87 degrees by the afternoon. With those few storms, by 8 a.m., we're only with a slight chance of rain. So the bulk you see in northern Kentucky actually moves on out here in the next hour to about an hour and a half. So we're going to be watching that. We're going to be paying attention to this front moving closer. What do you expect out of that? Any flooding concerns? Because we talked about that last week. Do we still see it? I'll have that coming up.
And weather in another part of the country is grabbing our attention this morning, and Kentuckians are on standby to go try to help in Louisiana with the devastating flooding that's going on there.
President Obama has declared parts of Louisiana major disaster areas after historic flooding. 5 people are dead. 20,000 people have had to be evacuated from waters there and rescued. WKYT's Mike Byer is live for us at the local chapter of the American Red Cross to tell us how they're participating.
Good morning, Rebecca. I'm standing outside of the Bluegrass area chapter of the American Red Cross. Crews from this organization are ready to help Louisiana flood victims. They're just waiting on that call. Many areas around the southern part of the state have been taken over by floodwaters. One of the worst affected areas is Louisiana's capital, Baton Rouge. This area, along with many others, saw torrential rains over the weekend that left entire neighborhoods underwater. The governor says over 20,000 people have been rescued from the floodwaters that have claimed the lives of 5 people so far. Major highways like I-12 were forced to shut down, leaving many drivers stranded on the road for more than 24 hours. With more rain in the forecast, the state's governor warned this horrible nightmare is far from over. Over 10,000 people have been forced from their homes and are now waking up in shelters across the southern part of the state. With that said, with such a high number of people affected, that's why areas of the American Red Cross are ready to step in and help. Once again, they're just waiting on that call. Live in Lexington, Mike Byer, WKYT.
All right, thank you, Mike. Unrest continues in Milwaukee over the police shooting of a man during a traffic stop. Police say one person was shot during last night's protest. Dozens of officers in riot gear confronted a group who were throwing rocks at police. Police also say an officer was taken to the hospital after a rock broke the windshield of a squad car. Protesters set a car on fire there. There were no reports of major destruction of property, though some gas stations there have been hit pretty hard. 6 businesses were burned in the unrest on Saturday.
In some local news this morning, a stabbing sent a Lexington mother to the hospital. Police were called to Chelsea Woods Drive last night for the report of domestic violence. They say they found a mother with stab wounds. She went to UK hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. And police tell us her 16-year-old son went to the hospital as well before being taken into custody. He is now facing an assault charge. Police in Bowling Green say a son stabbed his father in the middle of a church service. Ethan Buckley is charged with assault for the stabbing inside Hillview Heights Church. We're told an associate pastor tackled Buckley after the stabbing and kept him subdued there until the police arrived.
This was a domestic situation that just happened to happen during church services here at Hillview.
Buckley's father is at a hospital in Bowling Green. We do not know his condition this morning. Members of the congregation say both men filled out visitor cards saying that they are from Arkansas.
Emergency crews in Knott County airlifted 2 people, including a child, to the hospital after a boat crash. Kentucky Fish and Wildlife says on Carr Creek over the weekend, a boat driver's seat collapsed, causing him to make a sharp right turn. He ended up hitting the bank and a tree. When first responders arrived, some of the victims were in the water, others were on the bank. We're told the rescue was a difficult one.
And particularly this one where you've got a small juvenile on board that was injured, and there was obviously some injuries there, and so anytime you have that in the middle of the night trying to work out there with very little light, it was very difficult to get them off the boat and everything.
2 of the people injured went to a hospital in West Virginia. One of them was an 11-year-old. We're told the second person injured, a man, has back injuries.
The Federal Aviation Administration will be in Laurel County today. They'll be investigating a small plane crash. That plane went down Friday at the London Corbin Airport. The airport manager says the pilot, Everett Hawthorne, was practicing takeoffs and landings when he hit a tree. Hawthorne was taken to UK Hospital. We don't have an update on his condition this morning. We have learned a Kentuckian is among the 6 who died in a small plane crash in Virginia. Robert Ross from Louisville died when the plane went down near an airport in Fredericksburg, Virginia. He was the plane's owner. 4 of the victims were from Indiana, including the pilot, and the 6th was from Berlin, Germany. Police say the plane took off from Louisville and made a stop in Shelbyville, Indiana, before heading on to Virginia.
2 terminals at a major New York airport are back to normal this morning after a security scare. A terminal at JFK International Airport was evacuated last night following a report of shots fired. Port Authority police say the calls came from the departures area of Terminal 8. Police say they have not found any guns, ammunition, or shell casings in the terminal. Still, police did evacuate the area as a precaution, but it is back to normal at the airport there at JFK this morning. Back here in Kentucky, a man is in jail this morning accused of putting others in danger. Laurel County Sheriff's deputies say Jeffrey Burkhart was on Echo Valley Road and fired a gun into the air. They say he also threatened to kill his parents. Deputies arrested him and charged him with wanton endangerment, terroristic threatening, disorderly conduct, and public intoxication. Police in Prestonsburg are asking for help finding a thief. Officers posted these pictures on their Facebook page of a man they're looking for. They say they caught him on camera stealing from Good Spirits liquor store on North Lake Drive.
Plans for a pedestrian bridge are moving forward in Winchester. The Winchester Sun is reporting the Clark County Fiscal Court approved the city's plan to try and get a grant to build a bridge across Old Boonesboro Road to George Rogers Clark High School. The city says the new path would comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act and also make it easier to get across the road there, quite obviously.
This morning in Madison County, a special tribute to a fallen officer will go back on display.
And Richmond Police Officer Daniel Ellis died in the line of duty last November. Now his cruiser will return to its spot in front of the Richmond Police Department. WKYT Sean Moody is in Richmond taking a look at the special tribute. Sean?
For fellow officers out here at the Richmond Police Department, it'll be kind of like seeing an old friend. In the days after Officer Daniel Ellis was shot and killed last November, they put his cruiser on display out here in front of the Richmond Police Department, and it didn't take long for people to just absolutely smother it with flowers and patches and shows of support for his family and fellow officers. Today, that cruiser will make its return. The cruiser will have a new decal with Officer Ellis's badge number, 457, and a blue line through it. His signature will be on the hood. Now, the police department will have its official unveiling out here today, and it'll be on display here for several days. Then it'll go to a school resource officer. Now, Ellis's widow, Katie, is a teacher here in Madison County, and her fallen officer's cruiser will be posted at her school. Fellow officers say even though Officer Ellis isn't out patrolling in this car, his spirit will still be with it.
That vehicle, the mentality he had, the professionalism he had in law enforcement, the dedication he had to this job is still represented through that vehicle because it's still impacting people today.
And that unveiling ceremony will happen out here at the police department at 10 a.m. In Richmond, Sean Moody, WKYT.
A man with Kentucky ties will be the next assistant director to the FBI. David Resch will lead the FBI training division at Quantico. He's a 1986 graduate of Warren East High School in Bowling Green, as well as Western Kentucky. He graduated from there as well. He most recently served as head of the FBI's Little Rock division and chief of the Tactical Operations section.
All right, big congratulations to him, certainly.
Violence across the nation has prompted many central Kentucky communities to rally around law enforcement.
Agencies throughout the Commonwealth have been showing us how little acts of kindness from the families they serve can make a big difference. Franklin County Sheriff Pat Melton says he's been humbled by the outpouring of support for his deputies. He told us a story of a deputy who had a stranger pay for his meal at a drive-thru.
3 people just instantly come up and started saying, "Hey, thank you so much for your service. Thank you for what you do." Just a great gesture of love, and it's happened to several of the deputies over the last several weeks and the past couple months.
Sheriff Melton tells us the kind gestures are becoming more frequent, but not losing their value to the deputies. Sheriff Melton told us that Franklin County is a great community to serve. And our time this morning is 5:40. It's 20 before 6 and time to check live drive traffic this morning and see if we have any issues out there.
Yeah, here's a look at the traffic map. Not Mac, but the map there. Taking a look at it, looking all right. And here's a look at the Lexington Fayette Urban County Government's live drive cam, the view of the Limestone and Euclid.
All right, looks quiet in the downtown area. We have no reports of any early problems this morning. We'll keep you updated. The school bus is, of course, on the road shortly, and we'll have all the latest. Officer Don in just a few minutes. And still a lot more news coming up for you on WKYT on your Monday morning.
A candy shop in New Hampshire, famous for its record-setting candy counter. More than 550 different types of candy they sell when we come back on WKYT this morning.
Storms in northern Kentucky moving northbound, so it's not moving into the region, it's moving out of the region. However, some scattered thunderstorms are still with us the next few days. When does the front move through? I'm going to have that in your forecast coming up next.
Now, your hour-by-hour forecast with meteorologist Micah Harris.
We have some really heavy rain just rolled across 75, now rolling across 27 in northern portions of our viewing area. You can see that on the Florence cam. Look at Florence, middle of your screen, top portion, and boy, is it really coming down in that area. And so you're talking about some nasty rain in the northern portions of our region. You just got to keep that in mind as you're traveling this morning. That's 10% of our region, though. The other 90% actually looks really nice outside. Lexington, no problems. Frankfort, not seeing any issues there on the roads. E-Town looks good as you're traveling down Bluegrass Parkway all the way to E-Town. Moorhead, no problems either over in Rowan County, and I'm not seeing any issues there in the Corbin-London area across 75. So here's the rain, and this is some really heavy rain, but the good news is it's moving pretty quickly. So it's not putting down a tremendous amounts of rain at once. You're getting some heavy rain out of that, don't get me wrong, but it's moving so fast that it's not causing any flooding issues, not that I've heard of so far, but it's right across 27, Covington, Cincinnati, getting the brunt of that. Some portions in our viewing area seeing a little bit of that, but it's rolling over the AA highway here in just about 30, 45 minutes. The setup here is, to the south of us, there's nothing going on, but it's throwing a lot of moisture in from the Gulf of Mexico into our region still today and through the next few days. But the problem is this front's really not moving all that much. I would say this front pushes through around Wednesday as of right now. Remember, if you date back toward last week, on Wednesday, we were calling for Saturday, Sunday. On Thursday, it was more of Sunday, Monday. On Friday, it was more of late Sunday into Monday. But now it's Tuesday into Wednesday. I mean, this front just is not moving. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this weather, and it's just not pushing on through. But right now, as of now, it looks like Wednesday is when we should see the front move through. So what does that mean for us? Well, let me take you through it. Watch this go hour by hour as we take off towards your Tuesday into Wednesday. How much rain are we expecting? I'm going to stop it here at Tuesday. It's hit and miss activity, meaning what? Some of us get the rain, some of us do not. It's been that setup the past 3 weeks. Obviously, no widespread heavy rain, meaning a lot of us actually don't get the 2-3 inches of rain. Most of us stay around ½ an inch to about an inch of rain, but you can still get some flooding issues with some heavy downpours one after another. But the nice feeling is coming. Watch this in my 7-day forecast. Check this out. This looks really good. 87 degrees for today. And that's the highest temperature we see in the next several days, guys. We get off towards your Thursday, Friday. It looks like that's when the rain starts to move on out, so only slight chances during those 2 days. And temperatures 80 degrees on Sunday. And I'll tell you this, some of these weather models that far out are putting up 78, 79 degrees for highs, not lows. If you date back toward last week, we actually had lows at 78 degrees. So this is some really nice air heading our way. Got to go through a few storms before we get there, though. That's the only problem I see in the forecast.
And not a big space between the highs and lows.
No,
like,
absolutely
you know?
not.
All right.
Still pretty good.
Thank you, Mike. At the time is 5:47. While it might not actually be heaven, a candy shop in New Hampshire is the closest thing to that for many kids with sweet tooths.
And maybe grown kids, right? Chudder's. That's a strange name. Features the longest candy counter in the world and enough sweets to drive anyone crazy. The shop's owner, Jim Alden, says kids are often so amazed they just run up and down the length of the counter trying to get a plan for what to do. The candy counter is 112 feet long with 550 jars of candy. Alden says he has tried them all. The shop also makes its own fudge, and on any given day, there are more than 50 different types of fudge that you can buy. Alden says they make about 20,000 pounds of it a year. That's just shy of the weight of the largest elephant ever recorded. And I love how the kids have to have a strategy, right?
Right.
Devised to deal with all that candy.
Then they dig through it and see what they want to eat first.
That is so fun. Love
Looks like
that.
they had a good time.
Coming up, you'll get the stories making news right now.
We're going to check on traffic again. We'll see how things are moving along. We have some health news and a whole lot more. And it sure is good to have you with us bright and early on WKYT this Monday morning. Hey, good morning. Welcome back into WKYT this morning. Here we are live on your Monday, and glad to have you with us at 5:52 now.
Yeah, I hope your morning's off to a fabulous start. Let's get a look right now at some of the stories we're working on for you at this hour.
The federal government has declared a major disaster for parts of Louisiana following historic flooding there over the weekend. More than 20,000 people were rescued from floodwaters. More rivers and creeks are expected to burst their banks in coming days, and crews with the American Red Cross here in Lexington are on standby this morning to help out those impacted by the flooding in Louisiana.
A fire left several people without a home in downtown Winchester. The apartments above the 21 on Broadway bar caught fire yesterday afternoon. A man who works at the bar and lives in the building says he's not allowed back in his apartment. Firefighters do not know what caused the fire. They have asked the Red Cross to help those who lost their apartments.
This morning in Madison County, a special tribute to a fallen officer will go back on display. Richmond Police Officer Daniel Ellis's cruiser will return to its spot in front of the Richmond Police Department. Ellis died in the line of duty last November. Ellis's cruiser will have new decals to honor him, and the cruiser will be in front of the police department for the next several days.
In national news this morning, out west, hundreds of firefighters are battling a massive wildfire in Northern California.
Update you on that. Officials say the fire jumped a road and raced toward homes and businesses in Lower Lake. Thousands have been told to evacuate, and structures are burning to the ground in that area. Vice President Joe Biden is hitting the campaign trail today. Biden will campaign with Hillary Clinton in the battleground state of Pennsylvania today. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is scheduled to give a speech on terrorism at Youngstown State University in Ohio.
A new study suggests many parents are taking risks when putting babies to sleep. That tops your health headlines.
The American Academy of Pediatrics is recommending babies are placed on their backs on firm sleep surfaces with no loose blankets, stuffed animals, pillows, or bumper pads to avoid sudden infant death. Doctors say the findings show more parents need to be educated. Also, doctors overseas are reporting that cancer now outranks heart disease as the main cause of death. Health officials in Europe say prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease has led to a large decrease in the number of deaths in at least a dozen countries.
We've got your first look at Brad Pitt's newest romance. And
a Hollywood divorce goes before a judge. Chris Martinez has your eye on entertainment.
Johnny Depp's divorce case is due back in court this week. A hearing is set for Wednesday on Amber Heard's accusations that Depp physically abused her. The judge expects the proceedings to last about 5 days. Heard says Depp hit her repeatedly during a fight at their apartment, a charge the actor denies.
I know that I'm young.
If you missed Downton Abbey, a new drama will fill its slot on Masterpiece Theater. Victoria debuts on PBS next year in the Sunday night lineup.
From now on, I wish to be called Victoria.
Queen Victoria. The 8-part drama tells the story of the Queen's life from the time she takes the crown through her courtship and marriage to Prince Albert. Brad Pitt stars in a World War II love story.
They're watching us. Now kiss me.
Here's a look at the first trailer for Allied. Pitt is an intelligence officer on a deadly mission in Africa when he meets and falls in love with fellow assassin Marion Cotillard. But the pressures of war test their marriage.
Testing you the way you tested me.
Allied is due in theaters in November. And that's your Eye on Entertainment. Chris Martinez, CBS News, Los Angeles.
All right, let's get a check right now on today's traffic trouble spots with a look at live dark traffic.
If there are any, let's see what's going on out there right now. Here's a look at current travel times into or out of Lexington. And you're looking good right now for the most part. Just a little bit slower. Traffic is already picking up out there. So it's just a little bit slower out of Nicholasville or from Frankfort into Lexington this morning, as well as Richmond backed off to about 33 minutes as far as your right in. Now the Lexington-Fayette Urban County Government live drive cam at Richmond Road and Manowar, and there's the crowd as they're streaming into the city here on this Monday.
Get it going, get it going.
There you go. And we want to check weather to see what we'll be facing as we get this new work week off and rolling. Here's Micah.
Yeah, before you take off this morning, there's nothing going on the roadways in terms of any rain out there. So there's some good news for you. 95% of the region now looks pretty good, but still some showers across places like I-71 corridor, 75, and then work your way up 27 all the way into northern Kentucky. The heaviest rain is about to move over the AA highway, and so once it does, there's really not much more back behind that, but still some showers left over across 71 if you're going to be traveling through there. Henry, Owen, Gallatin, Carroll, Trimble counties, those areas could experience some showers. So as we go through the day, only small chances during the morning hours. Spotty rain by the afternoon. Most stay dry, though. If you're about to take off, have a good Monday. If not, stick with us. We have another hour of WKYT News.